Masks back up in Los Angeles. The teenager who will be joining Jeff Bezos on his trip to space. And Love Hate 8 to end the week. Friday Need to Know. Let's go. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for Friday, July 16th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hello, hello.
Happy Friday Talk, Jill. Remember, guys, if you are listening to this and you look down at your watch or your phone and it is not 9 a.m. Eastern time, do yourself a favor. Go over to our YouTube page, youtube.com/CheddarNow, and you can watch along with this podcast with Jill and I as we are in the live chat answering your questions and just talking about whatever it is that you want to talk about. If it's after 9 a.m. Eastern, carry on.
You mean if it is 9 a.m. Eastern?
Yes, sorry. If it's like if it's after like 9:30 Eastern, carry on. You missed your chance. Next week.
Okay, let's get to some news here. Los Angeles County, the most populous in the U.S., is reinstating the indoor mask mandate for everyone, regardless of vaccination status, starting at midnight Saturday. County officials point to a rise in case numbers that puts Los Angeles in the substantial category of spread, according to the CDC. That rate is up to 7.1 cases per 100,000. Just over half of LA's 10 million residents are fully vaccinated.
Oh, Jill. We are mandating masks again and not vaccines, folks. I'm going to be doing this podcast in a straitjacket by Labor Day at this rate. I swear to you. I mean, maybe I'm the only one who's really riled up by this, but this is going to have three effects, right? The first effect it's going to have is making people think that the vaccines don't work, because why else would you be doing this again? And messaging to people who did the right thing by getting vaccinated that there's no reward for that good behavior, right? That's the second thing. If you're on the fence about getting vaccinated and you hear that the mask mandate is back in your county, why the hell would you go get vaccinated now? It's a serious question. What's the incentive? Because Olivia Rodrigo told you to at the White House with Joe Biden? I mean, give me a break. And third, Jill, this plays into the sense that out there, especially on the right, that there's just no end to this, right? That this is just how it is now. Government's going to do whatever it wants under this guise of like following the science. There's no explanation necessary for any of this. It's just totally random. I mean, they're starting this mask mandate at 11:59 on Saturday. So if it's that important, why aren't they starting it immediately? That's very nihilistic view, but maybe these people are onto something. I mean, I really don't know. Like, we're repeating the mistakes of last year when it comes to public guidance, and I have no patience for it anymore. There's no grace period for this anymore.
I don't know. I don't totally agree because, first of all, I don't have a problem. I'm fully vaccinated.
No, I know.
And I don't have a problem wearing a mask in public. In fact, I still do.
Yeah.
You could call it virtue signaling or just whatever. When I go to the supermarket, when I park my car in the garage, I'm wearing masks. I wear a mask, and I'm happy when the people around me are as well. When I'm home, I also go out for dinner. I get together with friends who are vaccinated. I'm not nervous about getting COVID per se, but I am nervous about potentially getting one of these breakthrough cases and being around people who aren't vaccinated. And I'm not scared I'm going to get super sick. I'm fully vaccinated. Yep. I don't think that I'm going to end up in the hospital. But I am nervous about bringing it home to my daughter who's not vaccinated. So I don't have a problem with it. And Kate, I just don't think that people who aren't vaccinated, look, at this office, okay, and I don't want to divulge too much, but we're having some work done here,
right.
Okay? No, there are like 10 workers walking around. All of them are without masks, okay? And I can't wear a mask here. Do you think every single person who's walking around this building, the statistics would tell you that at least 3 or 4 of those people are not vaccinated. But every one of them is not wearing a mask. So what's the harm? I don't know, and I don't think, and my point is that if you're not vaccinated, everywhere I go, no one's wearing masks for the most part. And like, again, the numbers would prove that some of those people are not vaccinated. So I don't know, is that the incentive do you think that's what really has been doing it? I think people who aren't vaccinated, if they don't have to wear a mask, they're not wearing a mask.
Right, but you're not the problem, right? The problem is people who are on the fence who are like, maybe I will get vaccinated, and they're like, well, okay, so now I just got to wear a mask again? I'm not going to take this seriously. I haven't been to begin with.
I don't think there's any convincing those people besides for mandates.
I guess, but also, but back to what I said, I think that it tells people who have been doing exactly the right thing for the last 16 months that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is just going to go on forever. We have to get to a point, Jill, where the pandemic part of this is in the past. And if you're unvaccinated, that's your problem, and you may die or whatever, and that sucks for you. But I don't agree. I think that these bringing mask mandates back now, it also is just, it adds to this sense of like despair, I think. I mean, I think that, the mental health part of this is really an undiagnosed problem that we're probably not really going to understand totally for a long time. But it just adds to this sense that like California just came back a month ago saying they're wide open again, and now they're going to start putting mask mandates back, and it just adds to this low-grade sense of like, what are we doing here? What am I doing? What is this?
I don't know. I tend to feel like we have an obligation to protect vulnerable citizens. We have an obligation to protect kids who can't be vaccinated. There's this new Delta variant that's really, really contagious. I don't know. I guess I just don't have such a problem with it. I don't find a mask to be such an inconvenience. I guess that's maybe that's where we disagree. Like, the mask is not causing me a mental health issue. No.
It's not me either. I've got one right here. Like, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm thinking we have to think about it in terms of society, not just the people like us who have been basically doing the right thing for the last 16 months. We got to move on with our lives here.
But I just don't think that I think that's the reason you need the masks, because the people who haven't done the right thing are out there spreading the virus and not wearing a mask, and so there's no way to enforce. There's no way to enforce that only vaccinated people can wear could go without masks. So in that sense, unfortunately, you just sort of have to like kind of punish everybody. I see your point. I don't know.
I think I'm probably in the minority here. And first of all, I think probably most people in Los Angeles are wearing masks to bed at this point. But I just think that it's public messaging. This is horrible, horrible messaging.
Look, last night's Yankees-Red Sox game, actually, it was going to kick off the second half of the MLB season. It was actually canceled at the last minute after several players on the Yankees tested positive for COVID. At least 3 tests came back positive, making this the Yanks' second COVID outbreak of the season. Despite the team being among the first to hit that 85% vaccinated threshold, the Red Sox, one of the few squads that have not reached that mark, but they have actually not had a COVID outbreak. And a couple of numbers that I just wanted to throw at you because I thought this was super interesting. I just saw this chart. In terms of the percent of population receiving at least one vaccine dose, remember in the beginning of just the vaccine rollout how bad Europe was doing comparatively? Right now, Canada, the UK, Israel, Italy, and Germany all have a higher percentage than the United States. France is about to overtake us.
Yeah, I think Canada almost did or is about to too.
Yeah. Canada's actually, Canada's number one for first dose. Yeah. They're even ahead of the UK and Israel. So,
this Yankee thing.
What is going on?
Yeah, well, this Yankee thing last night is interesting because it plays into the point that I was just making, right? Vaccines are not firewalls. They are fire retardants. They're not. There's going to be breakthrough cases. It's going to happen. The point is that if you're vaccinated against COVID, you're not going to be intubated in the hospital, right? It's not that maybe you will get it. Maybe you will have an asymptomatic case. But this is an endemic thing now. It's no longer a pandemic. Cases are no longer a relevant metric, whether it's in the MLB, whether it's in Los Angeles County, whether it's in the United States or anywhere. It has to do with deaths and hospitalizations. And at some point, we have got to have a national conversation here about when the pandemic is over and when we come to the agreement that this is now an endemic virus that is going to continue to circulate in low levels in our society and that we have to live with it. And that day has come, in my opinion.
In Washington, the Senate expected to start the process of voting on the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill next week, even though the legislation is still being negotiated and the bill itself hasn't even been written. Democrats also starting to push for a separate $3.5 trillion budget package that does not have Republican support. It includes spending on things like child care, education, and climate measures.
So this is a little bit confusing if you're not following this closely, which why would you be, because it's boring. But the former bill needs 10 Republican, physical infrastructure bill needs 10 Republican votes to pass, right? The latter, which is this sort of like soft infrastructure bill that's just a budget, basically, can pass with just Democrats as long as they keep Joe Manchin and et al. On board. So that's the big issue here. But if the Democrats can pass these two things, especially the latter, this is going to be Biden's crowning achievement in terms of really widening the social safety net and sort of being this LBJ, FDR type that people want him to be on the left. There's billions of dollars for subsidized childcare and parental leave for working parents, an issue close to both of our hearts, Jill. There's billions more for the making that child tax credit permanent. Those checks started going out yesterday. There's Medicare expansion, tax increases on the rich, corporations, and polluters. So we'll see what gets watered down. But if the Democrats can get these two bills passed, especially if they can do it before the midterms, combined with the stimulus from last year, or earlier this year, that will be Biden's legacy.
Turning overseas, at least 100 people have died in severe flooding in Western Europe caused by some of the heaviest rainfall in a century. Flash floods swept through towns in Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, inundating villages, washing away houses, and causing buildings to collapse. Germany is by far the hardest hit. There are still more than 1,300 people reported missing in that country. When I first read that, Carlo, I thought it was a typo. That is an incredible, just an incredible amount of destruction.
Yeah, 1,300 missing people in a flood. You don't see that every day. So hopefully that number goes down significantly as they reach more people. A lot of times those missing numbers are sort of meaningless in the beginning because there's a lot of just like confusion about stuff. Although I have to say in the Surfside case, we were hoping that was going to be the case and it wasn't. Those people, sadly, it looks like all perished. This flooding coming a day after the EU unveiled that big climate mitigation plan. Officials warning that these kinds of extreme weather events really going to become just more common just about everywhere because of climate change, Jill.
When Jeff Bezos blasts off into suborbital space next week, he'll be joined by an 18-year-old who's going to become the youngest person to ever reach space. Oliver Damon is the son of a private equity CEO. He's taking the seat of the anonymous person who paid $28 million for the opportunity, but can no longer go because of, quote, scheduling conflicts. Bezos and Damon are going to be going up with Bezos' brother Mark and also Wally Funk. She's the pioneering female aviator who is also going to become the oldest person in space. She's 82 years old. They're going to take this 10-minute trip in a Blue Origin rocket on Tuesday. It will be the first ever unpiloted suborbital flight with an all-civilian crew.
I mean, as a journalist, Jill, you know when you saw that scheduling conflicts pop, you were like, something is up there. I mean, using the scheduling conflicts is the biggest BS excuse there is probably, other than like leaving your job to spend more time with your family. But using that excuse for something that cost you $28 million, that's got to be, I mean, imagine just being that wealthy, I guess. So yeah, I can't wait till we get the real story on what happened there. My guess is that this person's significant other saw that they spent this like on the credit card bill or whatever and was like, yeah, no, you're not going to space with Jeff Bezos, so return it. That's actually what happened. Ashton Kutcher, in an interview with Cheddar this week, said that he was going on a Virgin Galactic space flight and he had to return his ticket because his wife, Mila Kunis, said, no, that's not happening.
Yesterday on Cheddar, I also spoke with this girl, a woman who's going to be going up with SpaceX on their civilian flight. Her name's Haley Arsenault. She's actually a pediatric cancer survivor. She now works at St. Jude's as a physician's assistant. And she has prosthetics in her leg. And so this is such a first.
Amazing, yeah.
As well. And she was saying, you know, it's a little different than these flights that are just kind of tourism, because they're actually going up and they're going to be they're orbiting the Earth. There's actually like some real missions. They're undergoing 6 months of training for this. But she was saying that even just telling the current patients at St. Jude's about what she was going to be doing gave them so much hope. Like all of a sudden they were starting to think about life after cancer.
Yeah.
And she said like they had just the most incredible questions for her in terms of what she's going to be doing, and you know, she said they were asking like all these fun questions that she never would have even thought to ask.
Right. Living vicariously through her.
Yeah, no, and she said like they come back to life when all of a sudden you tell them about this. So I don't know. I know that you were kind of poo-pooing the idea of civilian space travel originally. and I know you've kind of come around to it. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Baker on Monday when we were talking about the Branson thing from last weekend, and I was saying to him, you know, I have sort of become a little bit of a convert on this because, you know, there's this sort of like malaise, I think, among a lot of liberals and progressives when it comes to this stuff, because they're like, oh, billionaires going to space, like they should be spending their money on, you know, pick whatever, right? Okay, sure, but it's their money. They can do whatever they want with it. And frankly, doing this is better than keeping it in the, you know, in a hedge fund, right? Why not? And then people say like, oh, well, it's, you know, this is just for rich people. Sure, it is right now. You know what else was for rich people? Indoor plumbing, right? You know,
cars.
Yes, exactly. Air travel.
No, and that was a point that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when you were saying, you know, we should be putting our money to climate change instead of fighting overseas or whatever it was. And I said, but it's not always either or. Like, and in this case, I think you're right. There's no say. I've seen so much feedback from people and criticism of Bezos and Richard Branson saying, like, put that money towards fighting X, Y, and Z. It's not like they had something in front of them that was like either go to space or put this money towards climate change. And obviously they could do whatever they want with their money, but It's not a guarantee that they were going to do that anyway. So they could have used it and just built another house or yacht for themselves. Yeah,
or just left it in the market and had it, you know, had compound interest do its thing, right?
The mega popular Nordstrom anniversary sale starts today for members of the department store's loyalty program before opening to the public on July 28th. The upscale retailer banking on customers flocking to the sale for new post-pandemic duds after a year in which sales plummeted 32%. Nordstrom says searches for, quote, work clothes spiked 165% as the pandemic eased. A lot of people clearly just looking for an excuse to restock their closets.
Yes, indeed. Earlier this week, by the way, this is a big deal in the retail world. Nordstrom announcing a stake in the online e-commerce giant ASOS. ASOS? I don't know
which. It's ASOS.
Is it ASOS?
I
okay,
think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Is a way to sort of lure younger customers to its brick and mortar stores. So you'll be able to now pick up or return your ASOS shipments at Nordy stores. They'll carry ASOS branded merch. ASOS, if you're not familiar with them, they're a giant among teenagers and people in their 20s. So this is a very smart business move for Nordstrom's, given that department stores are going the way of the dodo eventually, right?
Yeah, look, Kohl's has that partnership with Amazon, and I can only speak anecdotally, but my mom dropped something off for me the other day, and she said, oh, I was at Kohl's returning something from Amazon, and I saw this and I bought it for you. And I think that's exactly
what they need.
What they're intending to do. It's all about just getting people into the store. You know what happens, you go into a store and all of a sudden, even when you're online, they always put the little trinkets that are appetizing right by the cash register.
It's much easier to buy, to do that sort of, you know, impulse shopping when you're actually in the store though, right?
And finally, for the first time ever, researchers this week reported that they have been able to translate a person's brain waves into words on a computer screen. Scientists in San Francisco successfully developed a brain implant for a man who was paralyzed in a car accident 15 years ago, allowing him to think in limited phrases that then show up as text on a monitor. The man is still limited to a vocabulary of 50 words and speaks at a rate of 15 words per minute, much slower than natural speech. Still, this is an incredible medical breakthrough.
And finally, some good news. I know things have been a little bit dour lately, but this is a first of its kind experiment, and it uses this neuroprosthesis as well as just the power of artificial intelligence and algorithms and machine learning. And it is truly a breakthrough that's going to change the lives eventually, not yet, but eventually, of people who have lost the ability to communicate due to illness or injury. And if you watch the video that's in the newsletter this morning of this patient actually doing it, it's truly mind-boggling, just how far we've come, Jill. It's like, talk about stuff right out of science fiction, right?
And finally, it feels like some good news having to do with AI. It's like putting AI to actually something that's going to better humanity and not just, you know, help us stock shelves quicker with AI robots and things like that.
Right.
All right, let's do a little love, hate, hate to end the week.
Okay, Jill, I will kick it off today. One thing that we love, slipping into a nice bath at the end of a hot day. So.
Really?
Yeah.
A hot bath?
No, not hot. Like lukewarm, I think, is the best. It's a pain in the butt to wait for the tub to fill up. I get that. But your body, if you do this, your body's going to thank you the next day. It's just a great way to unwind. I have, for years, been trying to become a bath guy. we finally got this apartment, and it has this big clawfoot like soaking tub, like the old school, old bathtubs. Of course, there's no time for me to take a bath now, but as soon as Franny goes off to college, I will become the bath guy that I have always wanted.
Okay, one thing that we hate when it's too hot outside and too cold inside. On that note, this morning on my ride into work, I was actually trying to get the air conditioner to the right temperature, but I either had it on blast or I would just have to shut it off entirely and then wait until the car got hot and then I'd put it back on. I just feel like it's very difficult to figure out kind of how to just be comfortable when it's this hot out.
It's hot in here right now. Try living with a European who thinks that air conditioning is like, the devil's way to make you catch a cold.
That's so funny. I kind of am like that as well. I don't love air conditioning. Anyway, one thing that we ate, Trader Joe's cauliflower gnocchi.
Yeah.
To me, it tastes just kind of like regular pasta in some ways. I put tomato sauce, a little Parmesan or a lot of Parmesan. And I feel like it's like nothing. I'm like, oh, it's like eating a salad.
That stuff is good. Trader Joe's, man, they come through in the clutch. Okay, guys, we'll see you on YouTube. Good stuff to discuss today. Tell me that I'm an idiot for being upset about this mask thing. Maybe I am.
Maybe I'm crazy.
I don't know. I don't know. But honestly, this stuff is driving me nuts now, and I don't know what to make of it. So I'll be curious to hear everybody's thoughts. YouTube.com/Cheddar now. Otherwise, we'll see you on the flip side.
All right, that's what you need to know for Friday, July 16th.